Hello, hello, hello. A bit early for this game, but hey, merry pre-Christmas or Thanksgiving for you all. How are you guys doing? Hello there, Moon Man. How are you? I see you. Oops, mouse sleep. Um, why your time frame is as soon as I saw you? This'll be fun. Hope you're on the right track there. So today I felt like, or at least for this stream, we're going to go through a Carlson Ding duel that happened. Now, I was debating what title should I give for this one. Well, one of the sketches, the drafts that I had was Walk Like King Ding. And I'm not sure that people are a fan of that. But I mean, I kind of like that. It was part of my draft. So I kind of settled with the idea of walk like a king. And you're gonna see why I'm saying that. So this is going to be a bit of an educational lecture slash puzzle. So the main idea being we're going to try to understand how Ding outplays Carlson. It's gonna be cool, I promise. This is gonna be fun. Hello there, URT. Inspiring stuff. Victorious. Hey there, Victorious. By the way, yeah, so that's for this stream. According to my plans, but I yet to tell Ilya, on Saturday, for subscribers, we're going to have Chess Lab. Chess Lab shall return on Saturday. That is the big game plan. So if you're interested, you'll be it might be an interesting journey for you to find what kind of ideas I will share about the openings and ways of thinking about the opening phase. But that's Saturday. That is the big plan for that. Hope you guys are thrilled about the news. Should be fun. Should be fun. Chess labs are usually fun. And the first one was a blast. I enjoyed it a lot. Love the questions, the way we're phrased. Hope it's going to be just as big of a thrill. Now, let's get down to business. So, we're looking at the Tata Steel games between Ding Liren and Magnus Carlsen. What will make this one exciting is that we're gonna see how Ding fared in Tata Steel. So, at least for the beginning part, this is going to be a lecture. And we're going to look at how Ding fares here. Now, for some of you, this position might be an immediate answer what this is. This is a special stonewall position. And let me just read what the author asks. The author is asking, Black played the stonewall. How should White proceed from this position? For that, we will need to understand what is Black trying to achieve in these positions. Steady pawn structure, yes. For one thing, Black has this very nice pawn structure. I mean, it's nice, but it has one big drawback that we're all fairly familiar with. I'm sure, chat, you're familiar with it as well. And it is that super duper e5 square being extremely weak. That's just a juicy spot for this knight to occupy as it is defended for that knight. Now, white has this doubled pawn, and that actually invites a typical stonewall idea for black. What typical stonewall ideas could black do here? Hello there, yourself. Indeed, we're going to see how King Ding shows his great power to the Norwegian champion. So if you look at this position, what would be your first guess? Who has the advantage? Probably. It is a variation of the Dutch. Yes, via time frame. Well, it's a tricky question, Von Hoffman. For a good reason, I'm asking this. By the way, this is the link for this study. And I'm going to post a bit later. Yep, e5 is a huge hole in this position. Now, but because of these pawns, these doubled pawns, that's kind of a good thing for black. Also, how can black potentially undermine this f pawn? And if we answer that question, we would know what Carlsen was kind of hoping to play against. How can black potentially undermine that f4 pawn? Well, queen d6 is a good start, but probably I'm going to defend it with my pawn as I really don't have anything better, or I really don't have a better way of defending that pawn. So that's a good start. But if you got to undermine a pawn, you usually do it with an equal worth piece. So it has to be a pawn. How can black potentially undermine that f4 pawn? If it's not the queen or the knight. Yeah, that's true. It's true that queen d6 is a step in the right direction. But that's not enough to really disturb the piece. Carlsen wouldn't be happy because why just that is Ding would only play e3. Hello there, Bozo. How are you? So queen d6 is a good move. But the idea for black is actually Ding did play e3, b6. Let's say, oh, let me see which one. See if we're looking at the right one. Okay, good. So let's say if Carlsen would play knight e4, knight e2, knight d7, castle. How can black undermine that f4 pawn? Guy with laser, thank you, thank you. That deserves in-channel currencies. Thank Guy with laser. Yes, h6 g5. In fact, you don't even need to prepare it with h6. You can immediately go g5. F takes, knight takes g5. And surprisingly, black will have an easier time and more space to attack white's king. And that's what kind of makes this whole position special, that even though white is up some tempi, for some reason it's black who's attacking. So Van Hoffman, this was I think the Rapid Blitz tournament at Tata Steel, India, between Ding and Carlsen. So g5 is a masterful idea here. g5, nice plan, suggested by a guy with a laser. So g5 is a very strong move. Therefore, Ding has to come up with a different plan. He wasn't particularly satisfied with the idea of getting attacked on the king side. So what did Ding decide to do? That's the big question. Ding realized the danger. Well, obviously he didn't castle short, but instead he did something what grandmasters do. And this will be a surprising thing. They wait. Surprisingly, what he needed to do is just to wait a little bit. So in general, his idea is that castling is not so great, because if Carlsen manages to get that knight d4 g5 break, then there are problems. Now if you go rook g1, honestly you're not gonna checkmate on g7, not even with h4. So in general, this position is more of a positional struggle. Yes, something along the lines of preparing long castling, but honestly, white is trying to play on the queen side though. Let's take a look at the potential targets in black's position, that is. What are potential targets in black's position? And that will give away Ding's plan pretty quickly. Just like in puzzles, we just need to identify the weaknesses. Minimum 2 in this position. Minimum 2. So it shouldn't be too hard to find them. He does have underdeveloped pieces, but I'm talking about targets. Guy with a laser has been on a roll. Backward pawn on c6. So far so good. But what else? GST Darka. That's a good move. Very good move. Chess is sometimes super simple. I know people say, oh, it's complicated. You're not intelligent enough to understand. Your IQ is too low. We're sorry, and blah blah. You can't do this. But sometimes, if you just identify your targets, chess becomes easy, like baking bread. Now, I never baked bread in my life, but probably it's easy. That's what I heard. Yeah, GC Darka. Yes. Yes, guys. Everybody thank him because he made it rain. These are the big targets. Is weak, and therefore queen a4 looks like a great move. And indeed, that's what Mr. Ding Liren played. So queen a4, knight e5, rook c1, and queen a4. So in chess, sometimes it's a simple life. You see a target, you attack him. Now it's hard to get close to the e6 pawn, but we can spot this weakness on c6. Knight e5, bishop b7, rook c1. Now, Von Hoffman, I'm not saying that castling is unheard of and castling long is not good. It's an idea. Maybe you're right. Nobody kind of um, said that it's impossible. You can potentially go here and castle long. On the other hand, the f2 pawn might become weak, but okay, that could happen. But that's not actually the biggest problem. You are trying to pose and put pressure on the c6 pawn. It's very difficult if you waste time with castling, because also your king might become endangered. Queen a, rook c1, queen a4. Simple chess. Ding x-rays through and potentially attacks that c6 pawn if he gets the chance. Queen a4. Now, if rook c8, queen takes a7 is not as stupid as it might look if I drop a pawn. So knight takes e5. Carlsen decides to exchange some pieces. Was that a good idea to exchange pieces right here? Yes. For the reason that Carlsen is behind space, so he lacks space. So if you lack space, as white has more pressure on these pawns, this bishop can potentially get dangerous, it's a good idea to exchange some pieces. It's not because he's Carlsen, but that's also a reason. Fe, knight e4, and if you want healthy and aggressive rooks, what do we need first? What does healthy, aggressive rooks want? Open files, yes. Open files. Thank you, Amar Sinaga. C takes d5, and Ding gets ready to do so. He gets the open file. cd, knight d2, rook c8, rook takes c8, queen takes c8. Should we panic that this queen is potentially threatening to invade? Is that cause for concern? Should we panic? Chat, viewers, your opinion. Should we panic? Is there a reason to freak out? Yeah, not right now. We don't need to always panic, says Beyblade. But it's annoying, right? We don't want to get back rank checked. That's not our favorite pastime. Thank you for the follow, Lidar. No, because... okay. That's not quite legal, yes. That knight takes away that d2 square. So, happy Thanksgiving, Looney Tunesy. Hello, QSQ. So, we kind of decided that we don't really want a castle because our king looks a little iffy. And there's no g3 pawn, notice that. So Ding came up with a fantastic idea here. Ding to move and play. Ding to move and play. I put it in here as well in the chat. Oh, pumpkin pie, the best. I don't know. I'm a pecan pie guy for some reason. That's my choice. So White is trying to get the control of the C file, which is shocking. You'd think that, oh, there's lots of danger going around here. But Ding knows better. After Hulk Hogan, Ding knows best. So I see some suggestions. Von Hoffman, we just said that White doesn't really want to castle because feels unsafe there. Also potentially could run into bishop a6 ideas. So Ding doesn't really want to deal with that. If you take on e4, you open up this rook and black will be pretty happy. Yes. Queen a7, so it's Queen a7, then the king might experience some problems. Or even bishop a6, putting pressure on the e2 knight. So queen a7, greed is not necessarily bad. It's good. It's good. But not this time. So chat, who says f3? Raise your hand, post your emotes. If you think f3 is the way to go the Ding way, post it. If you disagree, well, say you don't agree with that. Oh yeah, f3 is the monster move. And honestly, I'm gonna give this a brilliant sign. Because normally, we're used to just castling and, the usual spiel. But f3 is just genius. Knight g5, soon after queen b4 was played, knight g5. And then King Ding walks the king. King d2. And this is a fantastic idea by Ding. You're saying that you like knight g3 instead? Well, maybe, but queen c1 check might prove you otherwise, Looney Tunesy, and that could be a potential problem. So f3 was kind of good. Note that the queen moves, so there's no queen h4 check. And immediate penetration isn't working here because the knight protects all these entry squares. So there's no way black could enter the position of dings. So bishop c6, king d2. What could be the idea behind king d2? This looks like a weird move. As far as I can see, GST Darky is kind of Darka's wondering why. How can you see the emotes? Here are some lovely emotes. Well, why do you can push pawns without moving the king to d2? Indeed, as Bladar points out, getting the rook to the file. Rook c1. And surprisingly, Ding decided that, okay, the king is actually safer here on d2. I didn't waste time castling long and moving my king, which would, according to my math, would take extra 2 moves, because castling is 1. Hiding your king from potential checks is 2. In fact, he can get his king into safety in the center, because this is kind of a French-like position. There's no checks from the sides that would usually happen in an open position, and the rook can shuffle and move on the c5 in one move, in one fell swoop. Hey there, Bozo, what's up? So the rook will get there in one swell swoop, and suddenly the situation is just great. Queen d7, rook c1, rook c8, knight f4, knight f7, and now we have to continue building our position. How can we activate all our pieces? Our rook is pretty happy. It's on the C file, the only open file that is really useful. Now we could bring it to G1, but the chance of that being deadly is slim. So it's something that we can consider, but the rook is clearly the happiest on C1. Indeed. Well, the house deserved the credit. Guys, good job. Bishop f1, indeed. You get this guy over there just to harass that rook. And Carlsen, as far as I could guess, was in big trouble. Carlsen is in trouble here. Knight d8. Probably not a big fan of knight d8. But knight d8 is the sign that black is not enjoying himself. What should black try to do when it seems that white is getting ready to consolidate? Your opponent is getting comfortable. What you should be trying to do? And this is very important as more of a psychological way of looking at stuff. Mr. Boros, Carson Slayer. Yeah, like Goblin Slayer, right? Lol. So either close the position, exchange pieces. Those are all true statements. Fire time frame, Paolo Gianalo. But you could do something else too. Try to do what? Look for counterplay. Yes, Amar Sinaga. How? Attack back. Basically, counterplay. That's what it is. But how can black attempt to do that? I'm not saying that this would have saved Carlsen. I'm saying that's probably the best practical chance. Yeah, I kind of agree with Guy with a laser. Just try knight g5, try to attack that pawn on f3. Now, why would that be such a great idea? Or g5, but g5 would weaken this f6 square, which could become critical if the knight hops to f6. But probably knight g5, and why would knight g5 be such a great move? What is knight g5 trying to restrict? Yeah, well, it hits, and it could be potentially a check, but the main thing is that this bishop might have to go to e2 first and defend the f3 pawn. And as long as that knight puts some pressure on the f3 pawn, that bishop cannot really enter black's position. That's the whole idea of knight g5. But I guess Carlsen decided to go this way, but this is kind of admitting that either I hold my position together or I'm just failing. So how should Ding proceed here? So we are trying to breach the position. And indeed, the move is bishop a6. We're trying to undermine it. As long as the rook is on c8, the situation is kind of okay for black. But if rook c7, then there's a very, very annoying move. Even queen c3 is possible, and you can't run with your rook. I'm just gonna start pushing my pawn to b5, and then this rook just doesn't have defenders, and as you move the bishop, I take no time and take your rook on c7. This is just glorious. So bishop b7 was played, and note that this was a rapid slash blitz game. So White decided to repeat. It didn't really mean that Ding thought of making a draw. He was probably trying to make sure that he stabilizes the situation. Rook takes bishop. Well, so this is one of those things that I always want to mention for you guys. Whenever you're winning via time frame, you don't need to give up material necessarily. We can kind of confidently state that most of white pieces are worth more than these measly pieces that merely defend each other. So if you sacrifice, you run the risk of giving up a healthy piece, which is worth a lot, for something that was useless in any case. So probably here it doesn't make as much sense to sacrifice. So bishop a6, bishop b7, and here Ding plays the cheeky move that any Russian grandmaster would play in any time control. And that is bishop b5. Why is this cheeky? Well, it's cheeky for one reason. You're kind of hinting at the idea that you're going to make a draw. But in reality, that's never going to happen. What this kind of signals is I'm ready to show you that my position is so superior that I can get away with this move. Now, if Carlsen would decide to move the queen away, then how could we punish this one? And obviously, Carlsen probably pondered a little bit, maybe that he could avoid repetition, but I guess he realized that that's not a viable option. Yeah, of course. Queen d6 is a monster move by von Hoffmann. The queen is just a beast, and you can't even take there, because I take with check and say I'm up a piece. Bye bye, my friend. Bye bye. So instead, Carlsen decided to play bishop c6, bishop a6, bishop b7, and now after repeating the moves a few more times, now he decided it's time to act. What was Ding's solution? As this is kind of like a puzzle type of position, what should white try to achieve here? If we could get close to that king on g8, we will be practically be winning. So how could we do that? So knight takes e6. Probably black can take that knight. It's a try, but probably goes, and it's a little bit too short. Indeed, one or the other. Which one should white play? And I'm opening this up to chat. Rook takes c8 or bishop takes b7. Chat, fight it out. What's your opinion? This might actually decide. And remember, chess is about nuances. And even in this position, nuances will decide the fate of the game. Thank you for the follow, Jerax11. So Wire Time Frame says rook takes. I saw von Hoffmann saying, so you're saying bishop or rook? I'm not sure now because you said both, I think. So I see Beyblade say bishop takes, Amasinaga bishop takes, Pelaginello bishop takes, Film Cracking bishop takes. You could get the queen to d6 after the trades. And yes. So according to chat and according to what I saw, chat says bishop takes is better. But I like Jimster's observation, and Jimster 99 is correct. I think take rook with the rook and then plonk the queen on e7. I'm sure that's not a question, but a statement. A statement, that is. And that's correct. Boom! The most precise way of playing. Suggested by Jimster. Underscore. Come on, underscore. 99. Takes, takes, and queen e7. Now the difference is, if you take with the bishop, I don't have to take with the queen immediately. I could take here, take, and can take with the knight, taking away all these critical points from you, and then you cannot ever enter my position ever again. Hyperborox says, Jimster is a legend now. Well, yes, this is how legends are born. This is how legends are born. So, bishop takes would be a logical move. And often you could get away with this, but black has this very nice defensive move. Rook takes c1, king takes, knight takes b7, everything is blocked. And this is why it's difficult to beat Carlsen. Because he is very tenacious. You make a little slip and whoop, you're gone. Thank you for the raid, Bugsy. Oh, Bugsy for the host. Bugsy626, thank you for the host of 10 people. Hello, all. We're just looking at this wonderful, wonderful game between Ding Liren and Magnus Carlsen. And as Bledar says, nuances, guys. And that's what Carlsen just showed us. And if you just missed it, you're looking at this position, wondering how he could get and penetrate black's position with the queen. That's not necessarily easy. And we were wondering, should we take here first and bishop takes? Now, we came to the conclusion that rook takes c8 is best, as once a legendary player, Jimster, pointed out. Rook takes c8 is the move, because you want to plunk the queen on e7. And I pointed out as well, as chat wanted bishop b7, that wouldn't make it. That wouldn't make the day, as all these entry squares would be covered. And probably that's the reason it's hard to beat Carlsen, because he sets up like little tricks like this. You miss one beat, and you're done, and you're not winning the game. So Ding plays rook c8, but this time Ding is going for the win. I'm not sure what you mean by your time frame. So bishop takes. If queen takes, then white has a beautiful finish. It's a good point, Looney Tunesy. It's funny how one move can ruin your game. Yeah. But I'll be honest with you guys, this is why not. It happened to me, not once, that one move and my beautiful position was gone. Chess is a slippery game. If you didn't know that, now you know. And now, indeed, yeah, chess is not a fair game. Yeah, queen e7 is brutal. Thing is, you can't really eat that bishop, because I will say it's mate. N1, you can't escape this way, and you're a goner. Also, you can't really create a hole for your king, as your bishop needs support from that knight. The moment you move the knight, that bishop is gone, and so is your position. It'll be just gone. So, Carlsen decided to take with the bishop. Boom, boom, queen e7. Now, technically, we are winning. But not so fast. We're playing Carlsen. We still have to make our way to the top. Queen e8 is coming. Carlsen couldn't move the knight, because then the e6 pawn drops. He played h6, queen e8, king h7. Now, how can we follow it up here? Obviously, more than one ways to win this position, but how can you put black into a windmill situation? Hyperborax, yeah, that's a decent move, but there's one move that's even more accurate, and it was obviously found by Mr. Ding Liren. And I'm sure this is not a saying by Vladimir Kramnik, but if I quote him, he said, well, winning positions are the hardest. Not always, but sometimes it's difficult to choose between five good options. So treat this position like a puzzle, and then you'll realize what Ding was looking after here. So if we treat this position like a puzzle, then we will realize that this king has awfully little space left, meaning checkmate is on the horizon. And that's why he played knight g6. Jimster is being flawless. Knight g6. The idea is not so much queen h8, the king would take the knight and be happy, but because windmill sessions will arise fairly soon, meaning knight f8 and the knight e7, also a mating idea. Why not knight takes e6? Well, the reason not why knight takes e6, because there's no more checkmates and potentially black can hope for some sort of perpetual. You activated your opponent's queen, and there is some little chance that Carlsen could survive them. But if you checkmate, then there is no continuation in chess. At least according to Grishchuk, even if you have no time, mate still ends the game. So that's a good reasoning. I kind of can get behind Sasha Grishchuk's observation. It's not that knight takes e6 is wrong. It is not the most precise. Knight e6 is not bad, Amarcinaga. I'm not saying it's not the right move. You could win that way. But if you're gonna make 99% sure you're winning, it makes sense to checkmate your opponent. So Carlsen found the best practical chance. Can you find it? Can you find it? So in general, where could you look for weaknesses in White's position? Defense is not always an option, and this is kind of the same case here. Defense will not help you, it won't save you. If all else fails, look for perpetuals. Indeed, Amarcina, look for desperate checks. And when you're looking for desperate checks, in general, try to come as close as possible to your opponent's king. Hey, Gemma Slipsudos. We're just trying to find the last resort move for Magnus Carlsen, as we are watching this wonderful game at my lichess study. Let's take a look at that. How can black try and squeeze in some chances of giving a perpetual? Indeed. Indeed. So queen c6 is not such a hot move. It's a tricky move. It's a tricky one. But then I could check you, king moves, and I take the knight. And then you're gone. Also, I could go for a winning endgame. That's also not so much fun. So queen c6 is out of it. Queen a6 is not that good, because as we talked about it, if you go there, just giving a check from the side is unlikely to give perpetual. So that leaves us with queen c4, as suggested. But now Ding shows good technique. Let's show some good technique. Whenever you want to show good technique, make sure you collect whatever you can and then try to go from there. What I mean by this, try to use your inner greed. So you'll be up material, but then also make sure you don't get and don't run into perpetual check. Jimster, maybe it's a sad move, but it's a good practical try by Carlsen. It's not totally unrealistic that black could end up giving a perpetual. Obviously, we know the answer, but at least he gave the maximum chances that he could get. Hello there, just for the charm. Wired time frame, not sure I get that. Yep, knight f8, very good. Knight f8, king g8. And let's keep our precise hat on. Talking about precise hats, I'll even put one on. Let's keep our precise hat on. It is indeed a windmill hat, Samar Sinaga. Yep. Yep, chat is going in the right direction. I want to see more of that, people. Who's watching? Here and everywhere in the future. Look for windmill solutions and proceed from there. Hello, Alex Hans. Here is, by the way, the link to this study. So indeed, knight takes e6, of course. Why not check? King h7. And here comes the big question. Now note that you're playing Magnus Carlsen and you want to make 100,000,000% sure you're winning. And that way you'll find how Ding makes the best, the maximum out of this position. So don't try to make a good move, try to make the best move. Now a3 would still allow exchanges. Don't allow exchanges. Force black to resign. So let's try to devise a plan here and treat it as a puzzle. Can White potentially set up some deadly threats? Chat, what do you think? Is it possible to set up some deadly threats here? So Queen f8 would be a mate threat, but a sad one because it would drop your knight on e6. So always be sure that your pieces are guarded. You don't want to lose this horsey. If you go there, I take your knight, and I think Carlsen won't be the one crying. So make sure your guys are defended and proceed from there. Okay? That's important. Okay, so Jimster asked for some more time. Knight f8 check, king g8. Okay, let's proceed from here. That's fine. We took a pawn, so that's good. We're up one pawn for the good. How can we continue? As we talked before, where can we find the mating concept? Where could we imagine the mate landing on, or which squares? No, draw is out of question. You know, we either win the war or nothing. We don't care about any other dreams. If we don't win this game, we are not happy. Viewers, turkey lovers, those who only like gravy, you should be able to find that beautiful mating pattern. I have my trust in you. I surely do. So do let me know if you can find it. Yeah, H8 square seems juicy, but is it? Is that the square? Is that the square we're looking for? Ah, I'm not the detective of Blade Runner, but I have a suspicion it's not H8. So I can resolve the mystery that it ain't on H8. It's on a different square. So we already kind of had the knight on g6. We had some pressure on the h8 square. So we might need some extra maneuvering to make sure that matey mate mate is really going to happen. Jimster says, can you run away with the king? If not, must be another knight move. Could potentially be. So knight g6. That's the next move. King h7. And what's the finishing touch? Knight f8 back again. No, nope. Knight e7. Knight e7 is the monster move. And that sets up this mate. And what else? There's also another mate that this sets up. Note that the queen can't defend through the pawn, as this pawn is just blocking the view for the g8 square. So that this is a big mate, and also there's one more big mate coming up. If black plays h5, we have a different mate, which obviously wasn't played. Of course, queen g6 and queen h5, checkmate. So the two mating motives that you needed to see is one of this and the queen g8 one. So, obviously h5 wasn't played. Queen b4 check was played instead. And we're going to make that a main line. Queen b4. But now we need to find the exact way of running away from all those nasty checks. And then we're going to win the game. White to move and hide. So which square would be an ideal hiding square? So I like the way Guy with the laser is attacking the problem. Don't look for a move. Look for a final solution. So I see king d1, king d1. Okay, I get it. So mealworms, the thing is with queen d3, you go here, I check you on c4, and yes, you're fine, but for some reason, we have the same exact position, so it's probably no good. Oh, yeah, queen b4. Promote that. How can we proceed from here? So where is the potential hiding square? Von Hoffmann f4 would be nice, but is that realistic? It's not really. Okay, so everybody in the chat, give me one square where you would like to put your king. Forget about the chess rules. If the arbiter says you can put the king wherever you wanted to, you can do it. f4 is not the one, so let's forget about the f4. h8 is illegal, okay? h8 is still illegal. Okay, so I see h5. Man, you guys are in great mood. I see the gravy is kicking in. But if you're a little bit more realistic, you can't hit your opponent's king. Oh, I've got the solution. I see the right solution. I'm happy to see it finally. Somebody posted in the chat already, and I'm happy. And it is on h3. So a8 would be funny, but that takes like 100 million moves and that will never happen. h8 is illegal because of the reasons that that's the rule of chess. But h3 is a viable option actually. So we already know the goal. How are we going to execute it? I'll give you the first move that Ding actually played. He played King e2. Queen takes b2. And now it's your move. King f1. Yes, correct. Check. Carlsen is following you like a shadow. But ain't no matter. Because the king can hide. King g2. Check. And now king g3 would run into queen e1 check. King f4, we even lose the game. Because the king will be mated on g5. So don't think that you can't lose the game just like that. Why? Because it was 100% sure that on h3 the king is safe. That's why Ding chose that square. That's why he didn't choose a different one. Milburn, so black queen, how, what? King e2? How can the black queen check on f1? I don't get it, mealworms. So queen b2, king f1, and after king h3, black resigned. So king d1 might happen to be working, but this one was 100% sure, guaranteed is going to win. Not saying that king d1 is bad, but this was the safest choice, at least according to Ding. Yeah, so Milgram was saying, my point was I don't see why h3 was safe because black can check with queen on f1, but the point is that black queen cannot access the f1 in time. Indeed, that is the thing, mealworms. So here, the important point was that Ding realized, okay, on this square, the king will be safe. Just need to get there. Takes and king h3. He also made sure that there is no queen f1 check, because then it wouldn't be safe. And with that, I would agree. But this one is just winning. So, this was game one, the first king walk by King Ding. Hey, Ruffalaxis, nice to see you. And happy Turkey Day for you. And pre-Christmas. So, we just watched this game. Here's the link. And we're gonna proceed to Walk Like a King, puzzle number 2. Carlsen Ding. Here we go. So, we start from this strategic position. Black is Ding Liren. White is Magnus Carlsen. Magnus is known to be a world champion. Okay, enough. Ding is known to be the upcoming new Chinese talent, who I feel will be a bit of a headache for Carlsen in the upcoming future. So we're playing the black side, aka the ding side. So we're trying to come up with some nice maneuvering plans. Ding to play and find a nice plan. Black to move and play. These are from the Tata Rapidan Blitz, yes. Ron Morales says Ding wants his king to be in good shape. That's why it walks a lot. Yeah, so not everybody has the treatment of Alexandra Botez. So you can't always do jumping jacks and wait for Alexandra to show up in your channel. Sometimes you have to make your king walk by itself. So, what is Carlsen threatening here? What is Carlsen trying to do? Obviously, this was a Ruy Lopez position. It's fairly obvious that Carlsen wants to plonk that knight to f5. Now, that will have some consequences. We all know that that will have consequences. Namely, the g7 square is a huge target. The knight enters, this square becomes weak, so we need to tread carefully, quoting Metallica there. So, we need to come up with this nice little move that I'm sure took little time from Ding to find. G6 would be painful, and also it's not a maneuver, it's a pawn move. Pawn moves are not maneuvers. You can only maneuver with pieces. So white is threatening to move to f5. So I see ideas such as rook e8 and bishop f8, and I like that. That's creative and very nice. g6, it's not necessarily too bad, but it's not a maneuver. But rook e8 is pretty nice with the idea of getting the bishop there. Now this wasn't played, but it's an interesting idea, and it deserves a mention. I like it. So knight c5 is the move played, and this is a monster move, because after knight f5, what is the move that Ding was aiming to achieve with knight c5? Well, the key squares in these positions are this and f5. So as you guys point out, knight e6 is a super move. Because from that square, and this is Ding's big maneuver, it protects the g7 square. Also, it kind of eyes the d4 square here, sometimes even the f4 one. So if you would take on f5, you would take away this beautiful e6 square from your knight. Takes, takes. This would take away the knight, and white will get this juicy outpost on e4. And that could eventually lead to some bad bishop, good knight positions. Let's say king h8, here, takes, knight e4. You can't really go there because I'm going to chase you away. And I have a monster knight against the bishop that really has no targets at all. So this is again the typical good knight and bad bishop position. So obviously, Ding wants to avoid that and plays knight e6. Yeah, Ding seems to be good at chess, indeed. Also, that will give away the bishop pair. Yep, good observation. So knight c4 is played, b6, just protecting the pawns. b6, knight takes e7, queen takes e7, knight e3. So why did Carlsen decide to exchange on e7 and play knight e3 then? What is he doing? And obviously, I'm being sarcastic here. Carlsen knows what he's doing. Indeed, he's trying to vacate this square for the knight. In fact, I'm gonna even give it a good move sign, because now the knight wants to hop there. Now, you guys suggested a move that I was a little bit dismissive of, but for the reason that we didn't have a knight on e6 already. Now we could go knight d4, but then c3 will kick us out and the same problem arises that the knight jumps to f5. So we need to solve this quick before Carlsen plunks a knight on f5. How can we solve that? Yes, Amar Sinaga. g6. Yeah. And yes, this looks weird, but as according to practice, there's no way that this bishop can really attack the long diagonal, or if it does, then black is toast. But historically, this move is pretty strong and usually is left unpunished. And also, it seems that it's more important to take away the f5 square than to worry about the black square weaknesses. g6 was played, bishop b2. Obviously, Carlsen spots that if he ever gets to open up the position, it'll be just a joyride for him. Bishop b2. Now, also d4 is a potential idea. So, how did Ding stop Carlsen from playing d4? It's simple. It's simple chess. Yes, guy with the laser. c5. Actually, I think he didn't play c5 just yet. No, he did. He did. So c5, taking away, having big control over that square, and now you can't ever break through on that side. Queen d2, bishop b7, hoping that if this position ever opens up, this bishop will get stronger. Rook a1, rook d8, rook a d8, f3, and here comes the critical position. Side would you prefer here? Black or white? The critical position of this game. Gravy, thank you for following. The big question is, which side we would like to be here, white or black? Let me answer some questions first. Is this a theoretical position since you're referring to it as historical? Prophylaxis? No, I mean there have been thousands of Ruy Lopez games played in this specific structure, so it's well known what strategies you should use. So CSET says white's position has less dynamism. Okay, why? I'm not sure I'm buying into that. Gympus Lupsudus has the best observation ever on the winning side, of course. Gilefnik says, I like black since he has access to the d4 and f4 square more than white has to these squares. So black has more pressure on these squares than white does. And to be honest with you, it's a very apt observation. I like that one. So we kind of said some nice words about black's position. But what are the good things in white's position compared to black's? What advantages does white have that black does not? And that will actually help you find things fantastic idea. So if you observe correctly, you will find the solution. Jimpus Plupsudo says the king is safer. Which king? Which king is safer? So the algebra calves that white's bishop is slightly better and black doesn't have many attacking. Could be, but this bishop is also closed up. Yes, C set says, and also James Lapsudos, the king is safer for white. The white king is safer on G1. Because black is missing a G7 bishop. And if F4 eventually happens, or that is a successive idea and that works, white will be better. So Ding came up with the fantastic solution. So G3 F4 is going to come in the upcoming moves. So that is something to deal with. And indeed, I see chat lighting up, but I want to give a little more time for you guys to figure it out. But some of you are right on the money. I will give you some already because you guys are on the money. On the money. So let me read the chat. Move king all the way to c8. But white is also missing a white squared bishop. Yeah, but it doesn't matter because it's not a problem there. Double the rook on the f file? Not likely. It does weaken the white's kingside hyperborax, but the thing is, it's not a big deal because this bishop hits a target. And as soon as white can get rid of the e5 pawn, this bishop will come alive. Black can't really do the same thing. So the brilliant move is king f7, indeed. And to be honest with you, this is why we love human chess. And we think that humans are great because this king is going to run all the way to the other side of the board and find perfect safety. So everybody congratulate. Who was the first mentioning it? C-sets. C-sets for finding the move. And Guy with the laser for actually verbalizing, which is very important. No, no, this is really a human solution. Ding's king is going to find safety on the queen side. And again, great find by c-sets. Thank you for the follow, Lai Algebra Cow. Yeah, this is pure human chess. It's observational. He just realized that this king is no longer in safety, but it would be safe on b8. So Carlsen obviously decides to chase it, plays queen f2. Probably actually the idea that I suggested, g3 and f4 is an option, or if we would have two wonderful, wonderful rulers, what could white potentially play here? And if you're a Mark Esserman fan, you would know what I mean by mocking. Yes, guy with a laser. Carlsen could have played king f2 himself. And this is true mockery. He could also bring his king to b1, and he will get an interesting positional struggle, which is fantastic. You don't see this ever in real game, that both sides make the journey to the other side. And to be honest with you, I still think I have a hunch that white would still be better, as I think that white will still have the opportunity to break and look for weaknesses on this side of the board. With g3, f4, and the king walks there, and this king walks over this side. So sometimes mockery would be the best. Hey there, JT. We're just looking at this fantastic, fantastic game by Ding Liren. And we see how King Ding walks his king. So he played queen f2, which is a bit more conservative, saying, hey, I don't believe you, and I'm gonna harass your king before it gets to go to the other side. King e8, queen h4, king d7. Not bothered by this maneuver. Ding is walking the king all over to the other side. And now white goes crazy and plays f4. Now this is an interesting sacrifice. Not saying it's bad, but it's brave. It says, okay, I'm going to challenge you before this king reaches safety. But as far as I could tell, this king is just in time to get to c8. Yes, this is kind of like a bomb cloud opening, but in the middle game. Exactly. f4. Now, Ding obviously accepts the gift. Rook takes f4, takes. Now you could check, but I can block that check and then just hide. So he plays knight g4 instead, trying to double down on this pawn. g5, blocking the view. Queen h6, queen e6, knight takes f6, king c8. So the long odyssey of the king has been finished. The black king reached safety, and the position is already won, which is fantastic. Like few moves ago, so on move 9, the king started his journey to get to c8 and b8, and 7 moves later, magic happens, as that happens quite often. It reached c8, And it's over. And it's over. And that would mean that Carlsen has been defeated twice by Ding Liren in Rapid and Blitz, which, if we're familiar with the World Championship matches these days, we'll know how much that matters. Hey there, Fuxia. Prophylaxis asks, you think Carlsen saw this F7 idea, or do you think he would prevented it earlier if it was the case? Random Move says, thought Magnus only loses 960 games. Well, in some sense, this was a 960 game. When do you ever see a king maneuver from f7, e8, d7, and c8? That maneuver is unique. So this wasn't the end of the game. Queen takes g5. And black is already in the driver's seat. But you still need to be precise. Black to move and play. That is Ding to move and play. You still need to find the right, perfect way to break through, and then the game will be won. So how did Ding win here? Let's try not to give away our pieces. We're up in exchange, that's great. But if we give it back, we'll be down pawns and stuff. So we don't want that. So note that this king and queen is on the same file. And that should be a giveaway of the next move. Kirgo, good joke, good joke. I appreciate that idea. So what should white be afraid of? Well, as we noted that this king and queen is in one line, we could use that one. f3. Yes, f3 is super strong. Opening it up, if you take, you can go rook g8, and immediately you lose. Now, obviously, white is Magnus Carlsen, so he played rook f1, but if takes, then rook g8 wins the game. Takes, takes, and this is deadly. You can block, but I can go queen f7 and then take your bishop. So rook f1 was played, but again, Ding was in an impeccable shape and found the fantastic move yet again. Ding with the final blow. And now rook g8. Yes, Jimster. Rook g8, and that's very strong. He's kind of noticing that the king is suddenly in big danger. So knight takes, rook takes. Now, if you would try to exchange queens, which would make sense, that would run into some deadly stuff, namely takes here, takes, takes, and f2. And now the opposite colored bishop problems show up, and rook g1 is just going to mate and win the rook if you move the pawn. So queen f5 doesn't work, and that's already a bad sign for Magnus. So he goes on, plays queen e5, trying to exchange there. But do we want to exchange queens in these type of positions while attacking? Do we want to exchange pieces? Of course not. We are here to mate. Mate? So rook g2 is obvious and elementary, Watson. But then we need to find the follow-up, which is quite important here. Also, whenever attacking, don't forget that you also have a king that needs protection. So queen h3 and queen g4 are beautiful attacking moves, but they only have one downside. But that's huge. If you don't protect your king, it might get mated. If you go there, sadly you get mated on e8. So it's never too late to mess up a good game. So queen g6 was played. Queen g8 seems also fine, but queen g6 stops queen f5 as we mentioned it before, because I take, f2 and rook g1. And queen g6, h4, bishop c6. Look how Ding plays, making sure that the king will be safe, also bringing that guy into the game. Bishop c6, queen f4, rook takes c2, collecting what could be collected. We should acknowledge Ding's greed. Let's give him the greed. Ding's greed is good. This is soon to be resigns indeed, as the tractor on the second is near decisive. Also, the queen will join the fight fairly soon. It's going to be checkmate, but not yet. Carlsen did try rook g1 first, rook g2 blocking, queen e3, and the last touch by Ding. How did White finish it off? Ding to play and win. So we know that queening is great, but nothing is as good as checkmating your opponent. So, as Duce Mano and Ron Morales and Random Moves points out, Queen g3 is a monster move. It's monstrous. Because this is not just Queen h2 mate, it's Queen h3 mate as well. So you might try to defend that, but then you get mated there. If you try to avoid that, then you're mated there. So White resigned. A wonderful, two brilliant king walk games by Ding Liren. So last but not least, I want to mention I'm going to do a chess lab this Saturday, or at least that is the plan. So if you will have opening questions and you're subscribed, feel free. And if you're not, you can still watch it. You're gonna see me answer opening questions and ideas. It's gonna be on this Saturday. That's the big game plan. If you're new here, you can join us on our Discord where we talk chess and other stuff. And that's that. Um, I hope you loved this one. I hope you liked Dingliran's King Walks. It was pretty nice. I was amazed. Honestly, I was amazed with Ding's play. Thank you for the follow, Silencio. And with that, I think I'm going to raid Mr. Monkey Chess. Thank you for following Copy Beans. Hope you'll show up on Saturday, as it will be fun and educational. And hope you enjoyed Dingliran's Big King Walk. And again, see you next time and have a happy Thanksgiving and pre Christmas. Take care, all. Take care.